Hello, everybody. I have to whisper because I'm in bed and I'm at my aunt's house, and she's sleeping in the room next to me, so I have to speak softly. I'm in Argentina right now. I've been here for about 2 months. I had to come down here to finalize my division of the division of my financial things with my ex-husband. So, I couldn't do all that from up there getting divorced. And as it turns out, my divorce wasn't even valid. I mean, it's valid up there in the United States, but it holds no water down here. So, we're doing the separation of our financial, material things. And it's basically like I'm starting from scratch again. It's like we're getting divorced all over again. So, I don't know, maybe it was a waste of time doing it up there, but I still have to go to the court and leave like evidence that we're actually divorced. I mean, it's gonna take about as long as it took me to get divorced, which is like, it took me 6 or 7 months. This is an uncontested divorce, mind you. But even so, jeepers, gosh, I just don't know how people go through those bitter divorces where they're fighting and nobody's agreeing. I mean, and when there's a lot of money to split, I mean, I just don't think I could have handled something like that if just this simple, supposedly simple divorce is taking forever. Well, granted, I was procrastinating because I did the divorce when I was up there in the United States, and then I kept putting off coming down here, which I knew I had to do at some point. So finally I said, all right, I couldn't move forward in my life, because I didn't have even anything. I had my temp jobs, but you can't buy a house or even rent, at least with what I was earning from temping. Or at least not rent in places where I would like to live. So I finally said, look, I can't go backwards, I can't go forwards. I unless I go down to Argentina and finish up what I started. So I'm down here and I'm addressing that issue and some issues with for example, my aunt. By coincidence, it's good that I'm here because she's getting older and she sort of can't be by herself anymore. So they have some people that come during the week to take care of her, and then on the weekends it's sort of the family trades off. And each weekend, well, there's 2 of us right now. I do one weekend, and my an in-law of the family does the other weekend. He's just a nephew of my aunt's husband, who's now deceased, the husband. So, I really should whisper. I can't really do soft-spoken because that's even too loud. Because I could wake her, so I'm gonna have to whisper. So that's what I'm doing down here. And I haven't done any videos up there, but I was thinking I should walk around, Cordoba, and take video so you can see what it's like down here. It's winter down here, so it's kind of chilly, especially at night. It doesn't snow like it does in the north of the United States, but it can get pretty chilly because we're near the foothills of the Andes. We're not in the Andes, but we're at the foothills of the Andes. There's like the small foothills, and then there's the Andes Mountains much farther away. But when you've got mountains nearby, it gets chilly. and it snows up there in the foothills. They call them hills. I don't know why. They're small mountains, really, but foothills. It sounds like a foothill. Sounds like something small, doesn't it? But they're pretty big. Winding roads that go up there, and I should really film. I need to go up there in a week or two, so maybe I'll film the drive. And I went on a date. I went on a few dates with one guy down here, but I don't even know if I want to. I may as well just be repeating previous stories. There's nothing new to tell. It turns out the guy was married and having problems at home. I mean, it's as if I'm repeating the same exact thing as the last guy I dated, but in Spanish. And then, the guy cheating on his wife. I mean, that's just... I was almost thinking to myself, is this guy related to the last guy I dated? Because same thing. Oh, I'm still together with her because of the kids. The kids are like in their 20s in this guy's case. And we're having problems. She doesn't understand me. All this, I'm just like, why are you wasting? I didn't tell him that verbally because I pretty much keep my feelings to myself. Like when a guy makes me mad, when I was younger, I would just tell him off, right there in public. And I just realized, well, it doesn't really do me any good, so. And it doesn't do me any good to let him know that he's, that I'm feeling bad about things. So this time I just basically told him, I was a little impatient, with him, but I basically said, well, listen, right now, I whatever, that's your situation, but I don't really want to be a part of this thing. So, straighten out your things the way you want. Yeah, I've got nothing to do with that. And, maybe give me a call sometime. So I don't want to live here in Argentina anyway. And I don't want to. I don't want to take anyone back with me either. Just stay down here, So I just need to start the process of the division of things, and maybe I'll go back home for a few months and then come back. I don't know, but I really can't move on with my life in the U.S. until I finish sorting the things out down here. So that's what I'm doing down here. I haven't been doing videos or anything. I want to do an eye exam video, like a role play, and I'm just not inspired, because I don't want to do a half-baked, video. I want to do a good video, and to do a good video, you really should spend time planning out, doing a somewhat of a script. I'm not saying you gotta write a whole script, but I really want to, if I'm gonna do it, I really want to do a good job, or I just don't want to do it at all. But who knows? Maybe I'll just do one and see how it turns out. If it's good, I'll upload it. I'm yawning. Excuse me. So that's that. A few of you have written. It's so sweet of you, telling me, that you wish I'd do another video. And even though these aren't, they're videos, but you can't really see me. I don't appear on the camera on this channel very much. So I figure, well, maybe I will just do a ramble for the people who like rambling, but probably the people who like the role plays are starting to get frustrated with me by now. So, I was thinking of doing a video, the top 10 lines that married men say when they're trying to cheat on their but I'd have to think of the top 10. I have the top 2 lines that men use when they want to cheat on their wife. At least in my experience, it's been, I'm having problems at home, or some version of that. Like, oh, things aren't so great at home. I'm having problems at home, or we're just living together. We're just roommates. We don't have any more romance. But they'll tell you stuff like that, or they'll say she doesn't understand me. Yeah, my wife doesn't understand me. And I'm getting kind of cynical. I think all men, every single man, if they could get away with it, would have more than one woman. If they could get away with it. There are men that are faithful to one woman, but I think they only do it because they don't want to, risk getting caught cheating. So they figure, okay, I better not because I don't want to get caught. But I think almost every single man, I don't know, I guess I don't want to generalize and say every single man. Maybe there is one man in this world who really does not even feel like cheating on his wife, but I honestly think that every single man would cheat on his wife if he knew he could get away with it. So, and for some reason, I was married and I never suspected my husband cheated on me. I honestly never suspected. And he's had plenty of opportunities to do it. If he did, I never caught him, I never suspected it. So, as far as I know, he was always faithful to me in those 10 years. But now I'm wondering, maybe just like all these married men approach me, maybe my guy, when I was married, maybe he approached women the same way, and I just innocently, just didn't suspect anything. He drove a taxi, so he was gone sometimes 8 to 12 hours a day. I'm sure he could have met up with a mistress at some point on his lunch break and drive to a hotel and all this stuff. So I don't know. I guess I never will know. I tend to believe that he was faithful to me when we were together. But, I guess it wouldn't shock me if I were to now find out that he had not been faithful. It wouldn't really matter at this point. But, I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of, and more so at my age, I really think that I'm more realistic now than I used to be. I think that's all I have to talk about. I had made a video before one of these rambles, but I ended up having to reinstall my operating system, and I deleted the one that was in there, and I hadn't kept a copy or anything. So that's what happened there. There's a theory that I've heard before, that whatever happens to us in our life, if we've had bad experiences or bad luck, it really isn't random. It's really our subconscious jeopardizing our happiness on purpose for whatever reason. It's not that you've had bad luck. You create your own luck. That's what the theory is. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with it. But for example, here I am always saying, oh, I can't find a good partner, and I've dated so much and nothing ever works out. I could be the passive sufferer of these conditions, or the theory that some psychologists believe is that you are perpetuating that as your subconscious, or unwittingly. If all your relationships are failing, it's something that you are doing on purpose to try to make them fail, because you've gotten accustomed to being in that role of sort of the victim, and so it's a circle that keeps perpetuating itself. So I can see how maybe that could be true, but since I'm aware of that theory, I purposefully try to be very conscious that I'm not doing that. So that's why I think that this situation where the things aren't working out with the men, I honestly don't think it's me perpetuating it unless it's so deep in my subconscious that I don't even realize it. But on the other hand, I know that a lot of women have similar, are in the same boat as I am. You know, they can't find a stable relationship. Maybe that's just a symptom of today's society. You know, it's just things are different than maybe in the 50s when women were expected to get married and raise a family. Now, it's more like there's all this equality, which on the one hand is good, but on the other hand, it's sort of, for those of us who aren't really go-getters and career women, you know, it can be kind of difficult. Because I'm the type of woman that might not have minded too much if the husband was nice, you know, if he was respectful and nice to me. I might not have minded being a wife, you know, raising, well, I kind of was that, you know, raising kids and, you know, but, you know, I don't know. It's almost like if you are sort of kind of a homebody, the men today don't want that. They want a woman who can bring home the bacon and, you know, have her own career and be independent. They kind of expect that, you know, they want you to be self-sufficient. So I'm sure that's easier for the guy because then he doesn't have to take care of you. But I don't know, then there's this idea, and if I have any men who listen, I think most of you are women who listen to me, but any of you heterosexual men who listen to my channel, is it like that? I mean, does a guy want to take care of a woman anymore? I don't think so. I think he wants a woman who can, you know, has her own home and has enough money to support herself. And he doesn't really want to be her provider and protector like they used to be in the 50s and 60s, up until about the 70s. Then the late 60s, this feminist movement started in the U.S. I mean, really, there was a feminist movement before that, but it wasn't quite as, you know, strong as the one that went on when I was born. I was born in the 60s. So by the time I got to be grown up, it was completely expected that a woman would, you know, have a career and have her own income and be able to live on it by herself. And I just kind of, you know, nobody ever hindered my capacity to do that. I just never was that type of go-getter. And my friends all mostly were. I mean, they, you know, they studied hard in school, and then they got their careers, and a lot of them became quite successful professionals, you know, went on to graduate school. And I was always the one that was like, and my friends would say, are you even going to study? You know, because I really I loved going to class. I loved, like in college, I didn't miss classes. I would go to class because I enjoyed the lectures, but I just didn't feel like studying outside of class. So I kind of, you know, I would study quick before a test or something, but I basically was scraping by high school and college. I was one of those students that people would always say, oh, you're so intelligent, you have so much potential, but you just don't apply yourself. And I was definitely that. I'm the first to admit it. And, you know, my friends would say, I can't believe you're even still here. You don't even study. I don't know how you can even get through school. And I think the teachers just thought I was polite because I didn't act up in class. And so they gave me scraping by grades. I don't know. I honestly probably shouldn't have even gone to college, as far as, you know, if my parents hadn't pushed me to go to college, I might not have even gone to college. And it was definitely, you know, I'm not saying it was bad. It was good. It was good to go to college. I learned something. I didn't completely waste the 4 years, but it might have been better suited on someone else. You know, that money, you know, college is expensive, even if you don't go to a really expensive college, but, you know, and it's sort of, and then after college, I was like, thank God that's over with, you know, I don't have to study anymore. You have people telling me, oh, you don't apply. And then I was just a really good secretary because I knew how to type really fast. So it kind of, I fell into secretarial work soon after I graduated college as a temp, and I found that I didn't mind that kind of work. I kind of enjoyed it, especially if you have a sort of a nice boss. But, you know, I've always sort of been the subservient in my jobs, and, you know, and my bosses were always older than me. Up until lately, my bosses are all younger than me, because I'm still in the same level, and, you know, other people move up in their positions earlier on, so you don't find that many secretaries my age anymore. I mean, because by now they've become the executive assistant to the president, or, you know, even within administrative work, there are there's a hierarchy there. You have the clerk and the mailroom clerk and the office assistant, and then you have the, you know, secretary, and then head secretary. When these big corporations, you know, then you have the executive assistant to the president is like the top of the top as far as secretarial work. And that's usually someone my age or a little younger than me, but that has many, many years of experience and knows all the protocols of how to speak to people and, you know, what to say and what not to say. It's almost as if she's, it's usually a woman. Sometimes I guess it could be a man, but it's still predominantly women as a secretarial and support work. What was I going to say? Well, yeah, but I've never stayed in a company long enough to move up the rungs to the higher secretarial jobs. If I would have stayed, I worked at the World Bank for about a few years. Was it about 5 years I was at the bank? From 92 to 97. 3, 9, 4, 9, 5. Yeah, about 5 years. As an in-house temp. Because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed just 6 months in this office, 6 months in that office. It was all within the World Bank. But if I would have stayed there eventually, I probably would have become the executive assistant to somebody in one of the departments. And, you know, I mean, the top of the top was the executive assistant to the president of the World Bank. That was, a few times they would send me there when I was working in different departments. You'd sometimes have to take a very important, urgent letter to the president from so-and-so, agronomic engineer of the Africa department. I worked in the Africa department for about a year. Actually, I stayed in that job for about a year. Eastern Africa. I even got to go to Africa for a few months. Not a few months, what I'm talking about, a few weeks. My boss took me because the secretary that was supposed to go was ill, so she couldn't travel. She actually had a serious disease, and she ended up passing away. But she was the one who was supposed to go, but she came down with the illness, and since I was his direct assistant in that department, he ended up asking me if I could fill in, and I went. And that's not even very common. Usually the secretaries don't travel with the bosses at the World Bank because they have offices in the big countries. In the countries, we have the main office in Washington D.C., and then each country has their headquarters of that country. So usually they don't take the secretaries with them because, or at least not when I was working there, because they go to the country and they already have the secretaries at that country already in the office for that country. So, but for some reason, I don't know, in this case they had to take somebody. It was a very heavy project they were working on. So I went. So that was interesting. I went to Uganda. It was about 3 weeks. And I did a little sightseeing, not much, because my boss was a Muslim man, very devout Muslim. I think he was a Shiite. At the time, I wasn't familiar with the different sectors of the Muslim religion. I just figured everybody was Muslim. It was all the same thing. But I believe this boss was a Shiite Muslim, which is, I think they're considered the liberals of the, if I understand correctly. The Shiite Muslims are the more liberal of the Muslim religion. And if anybody out there knows, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the impression I got. So even though he was a very devout Muslim, he was sort of not as orthodox, like the radical Muslims that we hear about in the news that are kind of to the Western world, that they scare us. He was more of the quote unquote more like us, from what little I understand of the Muslim religion. And anyway, someone who's been around the world and worked at the World Bank and everything. But when we were in Uganda, I did sense that he was sort of protecting me, or I felt very, like he was making sure nothing happened to me. So I didn't have as much freedom. I mean, I had freedom, of course. I could do whatever I wanted, but he was sort of not encouraging me to go off on my own and all that. And he knows more about the country than I do. He's the one who traveled there all the time. So he kind of mentioned, people here aren't exactly like they are in the U.S. and you have to be careful. And it's, he didn't say exactly. I don't know what he was talking about necessarily, but I guess I gathered that, he just wanted to make sure nothing happened to me. I guess, I don't know. So anyway, I didn't go off on my own that much. During the day, I one time went to the center of Kampala, and little shops there. I looked in the windows and things like that. Saw the people, but yeah, at nighttime I never went out, or anything. We were there to do a job. But one day I took a tour with I paid a guy that my boss suggested to me to take me. The guy was very, very polite, and he took me around, and we went to Lake Victoria. So that was kind of interesting. It was all dirt roads, and I didn't even have a camera. I'm so silly. I should have taken a camera. but I always figured, well, I could just see the stuff on the internet. The internet had already begun by then. I mean, it had already become somewhat popular by the time, the 90s. It was the mid 90s. It was actually after I left the World Bank. I left the World Bank in I think I left in 96 actually. It wasn't quite 97. 97 is when I moved to Miami, Florida. So it was sometime between 96 97. The internet had already started becoming popular, and I knew that I could just do a search on the internet and see pictures of places around the world. So, and it didn't even have as much stuff on there as it does now. So I figured, well, there's no reason to take a camera. But of course, the only thing you can get from taking your own camera is pictures of yourself in that country. But if you actually want a nice picture of any country, you just look it up on the internet. So anyway, that was my reasoning. It was kind of silly, but it's like I could just see pictures of it on the internet. I really liked that boss a lot. I had a little crush on him. He was married, guys, so nothing was going to happen. But that's one guy I might have considered, and I was younger. I was in my 20s. Actually, I might have been 30 already. If it was 96, right? I had just turned 30, so it was. Well, there you go. Now you know my age. I'm not uploading this.